So itinerary-wise, what are we focused on? So we want to focus initially on why doesn't everyone reply to reviews? That's going to be one of our big questions. I think it's important to understand what those blockers are, how to reply to reviews. So I'll go into some of that, and we'll do some live examples. How to reply to toxic reviews, because I think they're a little bit different, and you might need a slightly different strategy for that. And then possibly the most important area, how to gather more positive reviews. There are lots of simple tactics that I've come up with, and I've obviously borrowed and heard from other people that have been on these events and been on workshops in the past that have said, "Oh, I do this as well." So I'll give you as many ideas as possible. But then the last bit as well, I think this is definitely missed out by a lot of people, is promoting your Glassdoor or your Indeed page to prospective employers, using it as that sort of, whenever you buy something, you see sort of Trustpilot highlighted quite often and other similar variations on Trustpilot to say, look, this is a really well valued product. Well, I don't think we see enough of that when it comes to using our good ratings to highlight that we're a good employer. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, we've done that already. Sorry about that. Have you claimed your page? So this is going to be quite important. This was last week's webinar. I will share the links to last and the recordings and the slides to last week's webinar when we email you tomorrow with all these recordings in case you missed it. But in order to actually reply to reviews, you need to have claimed your Glassdoor or Indeed company page. You need to be listed as an admin. You'll see, because I'm not going to spend the whole session in PowerPoint, you'll see me log in to the back end, and that's because I'm an admin for the hireful Glassdoor page and Indeed page, so I can do that. Okay, so as you said, why don't people reply? So this is what we see with a lot of products. Almost every major product, I would suggest, typically has Trustpilot, Amazon reviews, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, TripAdvisor. It's something that we've become pretty confident about. And to be honest, choosing a bank, is not necessarily the biggest. If you get it wrong, it's just going to be an inconvenience. It's not going to have major detrimental effects to your livelihood and lifestyle for the most part. Choosing the wrong employer and choosing one employer over another and missing out on a great opportunity because you were slightly misled or didn't do your research seems far more likely to have maybe larger implications for you. But that said, we don't see many organizations highlighting their review, their scores, which we're going to get to later, but also, and let me just start a bit by going live, we don't really have, if I jump in here to Glassdoor, now if we just do a quick search, one of the things I didn't show you last week actually, let's just do a quick search and we'll have a look at some people who've got good ratings and see whether they've actually are replying to their reviews. So one of the things, I don't think I showed this last week, but it's quite a cool tip. You can come along here and let me just put in like college. You can get a bit of a benchmark for, let's select the location. Let's select United Kingdom. So if I'm the recruitment manager or HR manager for a college or a university in the UK, I can do this quick search. You'll see there's 756 results there. And what I can do then is I can actually set the ratings. Where is that? Okay, we can look at company size. I could filter by that as well. It might get a bit smaller if I do that. So I can actually also say, look, just quickly, show me everyone. Everyone's got at least a 1-star. Now we've gone up to 16,048. So this is something I could do every 6 months. I could actually this is not what I was going to show you, but this is a little aside if you bear with me. You can actually benchmark yourself to say, right, imagine I'm University College London, we're 4.1, okay? I can go, right, well, there's 1,648 people in this category that have at least a 1-star. Well, everyone's got a 1-star because 1-star is the bare minimum. And I could then go, well, look, who's got at least a 4-star? And now we can go 756. So about, I don't know, 45%, 40%, my rough maths tells me, is at least a 4-star. So University College London is in the top 40%. I can actually do the same and take out the colleges and universities and do exactly the same. I see, no, this isn't going to work quite as well because now we're hitting a limit, 10,000. Hold on, let me just go one. Let me see, hold on. Let's see if it limits it or not. Yeah, it does a limit. It's a shame. I think you used to be able to go and see, I could benchmark myself against the whole of the UK and look at our sector and say, well, what percentage? If we think in the universities and colleges is about 40% have over a 4-star rating, how does that compare to the whole of the UK? Unfortunately, we can't do that because it limits it a little bit there because it stops giving us a number. But maybe you can compare it to other sectors. But that's quite useful anyway. I think that's useful to sort of see where you are within your sector. Different sectors will obviously have greater potential to deliver employee happiness and well and satisfaction. Yeah, I think if you're in the social care sector, I think that's quite, take that one example, I think that's quite challenging. If we took something like retail, what you see on retail a lot of the time is general dissatisfaction in the retail staff. But actually, if you work in retail head office, you'll see the staff numbers somewhat improved. In fact, let me just show you that, and then we'll get in looking at why some of these, see whether some of these retailers are actually making a good effort to reply to their reviews. Okay, so here's Tesco here. Let's go look at Tesco. It has a little verification, make sure I'm a real person. This pops up all the time. It will get there. If you're interested, this is because lots of tools are looking to scrape Glassdoor and take their data and maybe build it into their tools. And yeah, lots of things going on with AI, and AI needs data. Who's got the data? Glassdoor has. So there's lots of tools scraping Glassdoor and Indeed. So that's why this sort of stuff comes up more and more. Okay, so they've got 35,000 reviews. I can click on that. If I wanted to look in and confirm this, you know, what are they generally happier in head office versus the rest of the country, you can actually filter by these reviews. So yeah, like I can filter by location. Head office for Tesco is Welwyn Garden City, I'm pretty sure. So let's just say Welwyn Garden City. And let's see, there are 3.8 changes to be, no, still 3.8, I believe. Assuming that filter's, yeah, filter's working. Yeah. No, now it's changed. 579 reviews. Doesn't seem like a lot, really. Now it's gone up to 4 stars. So, okay. Anyway, that was just showing you a little bit about benchmarking, how you can look at different industries and see what's going on. And my point being is, in some industries, it's the competition is much harder. If you're working in sectors like computer gaming, I know that's very, very difficult to recruit staff for. So the expectations of employees is much higher, but also, the list of benefits, the ability to work from home, lots and lots of extra things, how much they're looked after, career development, all of that is much more in place than perhaps you might find someone working in any, I'm not picking on Tesco, but any typical retail organisation, where they might feel, oh yeah, we're one of a number, head office don't really know about us, blah, 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 etc., etc. But what we're focused on is replying to reviews. So let's have a look at some recent reviews from Tesco. Out of interest, Tesco is a paid for Glassdoor page. We can see this. We covered this last week because it's got a little video at the top here. But if we scroll down, I mean, they've got a lot of reviews. There's a lot of work that would need to go into this. And if we click through that, we can see that there's these recent ones here have not been replied to. We might find, if we went through all the thousands and thousands and thousands, we might find that some of them are replied to. But actually, it's not uncommon for organizations, even the ones that are engaging. Look, Tesco's engaging with Glassdoor. They've got lots of content here, but it's not uncommon for major organizations to not reply to reviews. I've got an opinion about why that is, but I'm not going to muddy the water, because I want to find out from you guys with a quick poll to see whether you reply to reviews on Glassdoor and Indeed. So 3 questions. Do you reply to your reviews on Glassdoor? Do you reply to reviews on Indeed? And then more generally, the last question, you can tick all the options, any option that's relevant, but what stops you replying to reviews? So have a look at this and we'll see how it all shakes down. Okay, right. So I'm going to give it another 8 seconds. Slightly random number, but we'll go with 8 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for voting on that, guys. So let's just share these results. So we've got some goody two-shoes who are replying to all of their Glassdoor reviews. No one's replying to all of their Indeed reviews. So Indeed engagement seems a lot less, which is understandable. I think Glassdoor as a review brand is much more out there, but equally you might find there's far more people that you're generating applications from your Indeed jobs, and your little number sits next to it and people can easily click into it. So I'll be mindful of both. Yeah, and reasonable reply to some. Okay, so the Glassdoor picture's not too shabby. The Indeed picture is not looking so great. And then the reason people haven't replied, yeah, this is an interesting one. Need to confirm who's owning it. So if you're on this webinar, maybe you're at the start of a bit of a process to say, like, let's get a grip of it. And that will maybe an internal conversation going around to work out, is this better as marketing, or is it HR, is it recruitment? I've got my own view on that, which I will share. I'm not sure the best way to reply. We can help you with that today. You need to claim the page. Yeah, well, we've done that in last week's webinar. So if you need any further help on that, let me know. But we will share the recording with you. And struggling to find the time. Well, we're going to come over some AI stuff as well, which will help you with how to reply to reviews, which might seem a little inauthentic about using AI to reply to reviews, but I don't think it is. And I'll show you how you can do it and remain authentic. And last but not least, it's not a priority for my employer, which is a little bit there as well, which is interesting. The fact that you're on this webinar means, obviously, it's, at least you've recognized it as somewhat of a priority. Okay, so yeah, one of the reasons I think Tesco and the bigger company, I think there's definitely a trend of, well, look, no one's demanding that I reply to these reviews. Okay, so they've even claimed the page, they've set up the page, they've put lots of extra content on this page, they're paying extra money for this page, but they're not replying to reviews. So why? There is a question about why not? And my guess, it's not known, but when you work in a big company, then there's an argument of like, keep your head down, don't freestyle, don't do anything that could rock the apple cart in regards to your career. You want to stay looking good, well thought after with your boss and your boss's boss, etc. So if I go in and start replying to reviews, what happens if someone doesn't like my reply? And takes a bit of at the moment there's no drama, so let's leave it like that. The problem being is if you're not replying to reviews, then it does look, in my mind, it looks, these people it looks a little bit, what would the word be? Just a lack of care, because these people, including this one here, the first one up, 5-star review, has gone out of their way. They only wrote 10 words, but they've gone out of their way to post a review on Glassdoor. So it seems reasonable that at the very least you should reply back and say, thank you. Now, the other side of it, if you get a negative review, didn't think I'd have to scroll down too far for that. Doesn't take too long to find a negative review on most sites. But if you get a negative review and this person's a former employee, which is interesting as well, you can go and reply to that. You can sort of make your case a little bit. We'll get into the strategy. That's the next section we're going to do. But you don't want to go too hard on that and argue on every single point. But you can make your case, or even just show a bit of care. I'm sorry you had a bad experience, because this person did have a bad experience. It might have been their fault. It might have been Tesco's fault. Who knows? No one knows. But apologising for things not quite working out, or saying I'm disappointed to hear that it didn't work out for you here, makes you seem empathetic and human and reasonable and nice. So why would an organisation not want to do that, in my mind? Also, the last step, this person seems very anti-Tesco, let's say. Why not reply back, apologise or show a bit of empathy to their situation? You don't have to accept anything that they've said necessarily, but we'll get into that. But then at least that that person who might go off into the world and be a bit more negative about your company, because they've left Tesco, this person replying back from Tesco is probably the last interaction they'll ever have. So maybe soften it a little bit, maybe make it a bit easier, assuming you do the review correct. If you went too aggressive on the review, then guess what? You've just accelerated that problem, and now that person's out there in the world and is even more likely to badmouth maybe they'll hop over onto Indeed and post a review there. Maybe they'll create another account on Glassdoor and post another bad review and be one of them really, really toxic people. So there is potential risk here, but not really if you do it right, in my mind, which we're going to get to next. So let me know if you've got any questions about this, guys, because it is very subjective. So here's my 9 rules for responding to reviews, and then we'll actually go and I'll show you some examples of responding. We'll pick out some of the Tesco ones and we'll go from that. Or if you've got a review you'd like me to respond to, feel free to post it up if you want to, if you're happy to be out there a little bit. So rule number 1, put the effort in. Reply to every review. You could, if I was hired at Tesco and there's 5,000 reviews there, I'd reply to every single one of them, all 5,000. And then some of you might say, Adrian, what about the ones that are 3-4 years old? Doesn't that look really bad? I'd be like, look, we've got thousands of reviews here. I've only just claimed the page, but because you posted a review, and this is what I'd write in the review, because you posted a review, I wanted to do the service. I wanted to get back to every single person that's posted a review. So apologies for the late reply. Thank you for the comments you made above. I was ashamed that you said this or whatever, that you found this, but that was a few years ago. And we've worked hard since then. So I've replied to every single review, starting with the most recent ones because they're the most obvious ones. A lot of people view it in recency order, but they don't have to view it in recency order. They can change that filter. When I'm looking at these reviews, I can obviously change this filter here at the top of how they sort. Well, it sorts by popular even. So the ones that are getting, like, this was very helpful ticks. I'll show you down here. Look, if someone ticks and says that's helpful, they're the ones that are getting higher up the page. So yeah, they don't have to sort by the most recent. They could say lowest rating and look at all your bad reviews. So why would you not want to respond to all of those bad reviews and all of the good ones? Okay, and the other good news is very unlikely to have 5,000 reviews that you wouldn't respond to. And I would use AI to help me respond to those 5,000 reviews, because otherwise it would be a mind-numbing job. And I'm going to show you that. Just bear with me. In about 5-10 minutes, we'll be into the AI stuff, and I'll show you how to reply to a review of AI. You can then use the tool that I'm using, that I've built, and you can decide whether you like that or not, or whether you prefer the more completely human crafted response. Next up, and this is important when you get into replying to reviews, particularly the ones that we're going to get to the toxic ones in a bit, but the ones that are more just generally negative. Yeah, you've got to accept that some people are going to be, I've been here 10 years and love it, and others are going to be worst company ever. Okay, that's the reality. Not everyone has the same experience. You've got to accept that, particularly if you've been with a company a long time and you consider yourself, and this is where it can be dangerous sometimes replying to reviews, if you consider yourself like a real ambassador for the company, if you love your organization, you've put hearts and you've put like time, effort, blood, sweat and tears into helping it build up and be something amazing, then even if you're not a director, CEO, whatever, you can take it quite personal that people are basically slagging off the employee that you love. You can't take it personal. You've just got to accept that, however good a company you are or employee you are, it's not the same experience for everyone. What is a great company for one is a terrible company for someone else. It's just a terrible fit, not a terrible company. Make the effort. So this is a 5-star review from a recruitment consultant. Look at all the pros they wrote, and then look at the cons, long hours, and then there's tough KPIs, okay? If I was writing the reply to that, what a lot of people do with the replies, when they reply, they go straight to the cons, because that's the bit that I need to make my point on that one, and they don't hear any of the positives. A bit like if you gave your child some feedback about if they play a sport or something, you say, this is great, this is great, this is great, but you need to work harder on that. What are the things they're going to come back to you on? They're going to be like, what do you mean I need to work harder on my left foot or something? They're going to be, that's the bit they're going to focus on. It's the same for us. Don't fall into that trap. Thank them for the positive stuff. Also, when you thank them for the positive stuff, you might want to highlight. So if they say like the culture is really good, the very first thing they mention, if that's really important to you as an organization and you've got a good point, you might want to highlight that, yeah, I'm pleased you enjoy the culture here, and then tell them the effort you've put in the past. Or if they said about career development, say, yeah, no, invested X, or we've put a huge amount in. We've got this big target that we're trying to get to make sure that all of our staff are trained to this level. So you can sort of say, we are absolutely committed to this. So you'll see this moving on now in the future. Now, the likelihood is that person knows that already, but it's not bad to sort of remind them, and everyone else can see that when they read the reply. So don't miss the pros. Start with the pros and thank them for that. Then I would recommend moving to the cons, and these cons are easy. They work in recruitment. It's long hours. Well, many of us have worked on the recruitment agency side. It is long hours, and you just got to say, yeah, the role is long hours. In order to be able to, it's a competitive environment. We have to move fast in order to be able to, get hold of candidates and move on vacancies as quick as possible. The hours can be long. We understand and appreciate that, and we appreciate all our staff that put in those hours, and we hope that we reward them for, that they see those rewards for that. That would be it, simple as that. So there is 2 cons here. One about KPIs. You don't have to respond to every con. So and I wouldn't, particularly, then it can become a little bit pedantic. Okay, but rule number 3, or tip number 3, is make the effort. Don't just do it. Oh yeah, thank you for writing a review. If you ask me my preference, I would suggest not doing anything. Don't reply if you can't find the time to reply properly. Be the better person, never argue. So that shouldn't be your reply. That's a reply to a response. That's a little bit ridiculous. And about halfway down it, he says, we achieved a ranking of 24 in the Sunday Times best small companies to work for. That should have been right at the top. Should have been, really sorry that you've had a bad experience working here. It didn't work out for you. The vast majority of our staff have a great experience, which is obviously noted the fact that we've been highly rated on awards like this one, where we've come 24th. That said, that wasn't your experience. I appreciate that. Maybe you pick out some of the things that I wish you the best of luck. Don't fall into that bit where you're arguing. If you feel like you're arguing, just stop, essentially. Now, I know I said earlier, like, you might be putting some stuff in for the reader, not the actual person who's done the post, not the reviewer. And that's, you're sort of mindful for both, but don't get caught into just writing for the reader. So this one is Harrods, and it's actually the head of talent and learning who replies. So I think this person falls down by rule 3 as well, which is don't take it personally, if you remember. So the person writes a balanced review, said it's really good, blah, 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 but the training is few and far between. Now this person on their reply, and look at their language, which is a really key thing, which is why I think he's wrote it for the reader, for probably his colleagues on the exec team or whatever at Harrods that might be, he knows they're going to review it, or they'll be looking at this. Thanks for taking the time to lead a review. We value our people's feedback and are pleased to hear you found us a professional organisation with great benefits, as these are aspects of our business we take great pride in. That was excellent. Good start. Didn't jump to the negatives, mentioned the pros, and mentioned that these are things they take pride in, which is probably why they're good at that. However, we're sorry to hear that you not get the chance, and this is where it goes wrong, to experience the range of L&D offerings we have in place, from our Harrods Welcome that onboards all new joiners through an engaging interactive induction, through our wide variety of courses, guides. If someone raised this to you verbally and said, look, I just think training's few and far between, the way you respond, I think for the most part, for almost all organizations, should be in much more everyday language. It should be similar to how you might respond as an empathetic human being replying to them face to face. You wouldn't talk about a range of L&D offerings we have in place from our Harrods Welcome that onboard. You wouldn't do that and go into like some sort of brochure speak. So yeah, don't get caught in that trap. As we said already, acknowledge the pros and cons. That's a very good example of it there. This one, the cons actually as well on this one, which is why I pulled it out, was around, the review was around an internship in America, and they were saying that there was lots of positives, but also the inclusion wasn't really there on the program. So what I took from that is this was a white person that went on the program from a middle to upper class background, and what they saw on the internship program was lots of white people from middle to upper class backgrounds. I don't know that as a fact, but they just said there was a real lack of diversity in my colleagues on the internship, which is really interesting. Now, Oxford University Press had the option to sort of shy away from that or to actually address it. Now, they could have said, yeah, we know we're terrible at this. They're not going to say that. What they actually said, it's also interesting to hear your thoughts about some of the challenges your fellow interns experience. We'll take your feedback on board, particularly around helping interns to meet and network and supporting diversity inclusion through the program. They didn't commit themselves to any massive change. They didn't acknowledge that the diversity inclusion is terrible on the program or something like that. They just repeated back what the person said and said, yeah, we've heard your concerns, we will pass them on, which is, you could argue, the bare minimum, but I still think it's an impactful way to reply. Obviously, we've spoken about not accepting everything as a given. Every con is like, you don't have to say, yes, we have got bad management and stupid shifts, like there's this review here. You're not going to say that, I would have thought. But you can acknowledge that, their feelings. I'm sorry you felt that the management wasn't great. You're allowed to say that. It's perfectly fine. That you found management didn't really, you didn't get on with management, or management and you didn't form a great relationship. You can say anything you want in that. You're allowed to say that. That's perfectly fine. Oh, rule 8. Use your authentic voice, not the marketing voice. We sort of touched on this a bit with Harrods. This one, but it depends on the business and a little bit about your tone of voice as a business. You can imagine Harrods is a little bit more austere in their tone of voice. I do feel like, though, just because what they write on the website shouldn't be how they talk on Glassdoor. I think there should be a bit of a spectrum in that tone of voice. You can still sound Harrods, but be a bit more everyday, a little bit more at least. But this is from a startup, and the director hops on and said they're obviously a fast-growing startup and everything. Thank you for your outstanding review! ! You're right, it's hard to remember everyone's name now. Should we get name tags? Just kidding. Blah blah blah. And it just carries on. It's like, and it just really relaxed, really informal, and that fits this organization, I think. Personalize the reply. I think this is an easy win. Yeah, it depends on you and how comfortable you are with it. But it's certainly in a smaller organizations, I think this counts. If I'm replying and I do the replies on our Glassdoor page, I want to put my name at the bottom of it so that anyone in the staff knows that I've taken the time to come and reply. This isn't nameless, faceless person. We haven't outsourced it to someone or anything like that. It's like, yeah, I've actually done the reply. Okay, so this is me. If that person wants to follow up that conversation directly with me and follow up on something I've said in that, they could de-anonymize themselves, if that's actually a word, and say, hey, I'm the person who posted a review. You actually replied to it the other day. I wanted to ask you about this, if that's okay. And they could absolutely do that. Yeah. Sleep on it. Rule number 10, like anything, if you've wrote a lot of reviews, you could capture these in Microsoft Word and write the replies in Microsoft Word or whatever, save them all, look at it the following morning. Anything that's important. So if it was a really difficult review to reply to that was a bit sensitive, then maybe, and it wasn't time sensitive about replying to it, then maybe I would sleep on that. But more broadly, any piece of writing, I would typically save and become my own editor in the morning and look at it and see if I can improve it. And inevitably you're like, oh yeah, let's change that. That reads better now. Okay, so let me know if you've got any questions about any of that. But next up, I am going to suggest rule 11. And you notice there was 9 rules. These have got extended over time. Rule 11 is use ChatGPT potentially. There's a simple prompt, very simple prompt you could use it is a very simple prompt that you could use to reply to ChatGPT or get ChatGPT to do replies for you. You could actually, I would, like any prompt, I would typically argue you sort of tailor that a little bit to yourself. The problem with this prompt a little bit though, is that if you've got a lot of reviews to reply to, or you're going to use it every single time you want to reply to it, then you might find that you get a very paint by numbers approach. So all of the reviews tend to look, all of the replies tend to look quite similar. So be mindful of that, which is why I'm going to show you. Right, so these are this is a review, this is a reply. I'll leave that on the screen so you can just see that, see how it works. So it works pretty good. So it looks good as a review. The challenge, and you would still edit the output from ChatGPT. That would be standard. I would say that on any time we're using ChatGPT, we shouldn't be cutting and pasting. We should be, editing it, reviewing it, reading every bit. That's perfect, fine, that can go. The problem is though, by doing it with a prompt, if people, I think there was some research, it's not in my notes, the average reviewer, the average reader looks at 6 or 7 reviews. So they're probably going to look at 6 or 7 replies as well. The replies, you could argue in some cases, are more interesting than the reviews sometimes. But they tell you more about the organization, certainly about how they respond and how open they are. But if every one of those replies is the same thing, where it's like a thanking him, that pulls out one point, pulls out another point, and then wishes the best for the future, you can spot it a little bit that this is a very formulaic approach to it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you, where's my little friend? Here it is, GPT. So we've built a custom GPT. So if you're interested, I will actually just show you how a custom GPT is a paid for feature. You need to have an account that's at least one of the $20 a month account, something like that. Let me just set this up. It is loading, or maybe it's given up loading. Let me try loading it again. Well, what happens with a custom GPT? I will show you the back end to it. I can't spend too long on it, but here we go. When we go in and edit it, you'll sort of see how these things work. I do have, we run webinars showing how to build custom GPTs. If anyone's interested, let me know in the comments if you are. We're going to be doing some stuff around Copilot as well around this, because Copilot's got a similar thing around agents, and you could just deploy this in Teams. So I can set the instructions in here, and I'll put some detailed instructions in there. And then everything's pre-built. My users can just come in and drop a review, and it knows what the task is because I've given it the instructions. So it saves you a bunch of time. But one of the things I've done with the instructions on this is it suggests free reviews, so free friendly reviews. So let's, have I lost my Tesco one? Is Tesco's still here? Good. Right, okay, so let's, I'm going to try and get a review that's a bit more detailed. It doesn't really matter. I just want to, let me just hop out to page 5 and see what happens here. Or is everyone just posting really short reviews? Here we go. Here's a good one. It refreshes. Thought I had a good one there, but now it seems to have disappeared. If you want to know, my reason why a lot of people post really small reviews is because if you're if you're a user of Glassdoor and you end up over on the website checking out a company, that sort of stuff, then in order to keep reading their content, they sort of demand that you engage and provide some content. So you might write a review of your employees' benefits, but the most likely is just a general review of the company, which is why a lot of the time people are just posting something really quick because they just want to get the review done and then just, right, now I've done that, now I can carry on using Glassdoor. So let me just, we're not finding much here, are we? I'll go to that one at the top. It's got at least some content. What have we got here? Narcissistic, rude leadership. Okay. Let's see how it gets on with this. This is going to be a tough one. So I can't obviously paste in the actual review. Oh, sorry, that's my earlier work on ChatGPT. I can't actually paste in the actual link because ChatGPT can't access Glassdoor. It's walled off, certainly to tools like this. So I can post in my review. I think it asked me some questions. It asked me, is it a former employee or a current employee? It says former employee right there. Maybe it should read that and understand that. Let's see. Okay. And it comes up with 3 different formats because I've said, okay, well, format 1, try this, format 2, try this, format 3, try this. And the idea that they're all, so there's a different sort of structure, layout approach, not massive, but just a little bit. And that allows a bit of variance for me when I'm using reviews. So if I was doing this quickly, I wouldn't look at all 3 of them. Yeah. So it's not just saying, we're sorry, experience was positive. It actually reflects back on what they've said, that the environment and leadership style weren't supportive for you. Yeah. but it's not taking ownership for anything. It's not saying, yeah, the organization, we know we're a bit rubbish at that. It's definitely not doing that. So so that's not a bad strategy. Let me just put this on here. Let me do one more, and then if you've got any thoughts or opinions, guys, you're welcome to. I noticed no one on the chat was brave enough to share one of theirs. Thank you for that. Let me just go to page 6 and see if we can find something that's. No, this does that. I'll scroll in. I think I found one, and it's okay. So this one's here. It's got some pros. It's got some cons. It's a current employee. So one of the things it does is it refers to them as a current employee or a past employee. So I can just go here, like go up and go new chat. So it will recognize the person's a current employee in this case, and it will probably thank them for their continued efforts or something like that with the business. So really simple. Thank you for your continued service to us and taking the time to share your thoughts. So your continued service, I might decide I don't like that. Sounds a little bit businessy. Yeah, so at the end, we hope you continue to enjoy your journey with us and wish you every success in your career here. So you can see it's referring to the fact that the person's here. So these are simple strategies. So you can use this tool if you like. You're welcome to use this tool. It doesn't cost us anything. The link is in the appendix, but I will also share the link to you now, so you don't have to wait till tomorrow. You can just get in there and start messaging away on it and getting your users. Anything you put in there, I don't get to see it. It's completely private. Obviously, you're posting reviews. You're not sharing any personal data. This is stuff that's already available on the web, and you can choose. And like I'm going to repeat once again, look at it, but you might want to choose to edit it as well. Okay. So replying to toxic reviews. This is quite simple. Don't get into the detail. Okay, that's my only strategy here. There's not an easy one to do it. I would still reply to "I hate this place," but I would just simply be choosing something simple like that. Sorry to hear you had such a negative time, or a very distressing time was here. I've read through your details, and we will pass them on. We do look at all of our Glassdoor feedback, so that would be part of our review process as normal. And we do take these things seriously, etc. But I don't really think this is the forum. I don't really want to go into, this probably isn't the forum for us to go through that. You're welcome to get in touch with us. There's another thing you can do. So you can sort of see how people do it. They just go, look, appreciate a really bad experience. There's a lot here. I don't really think this is the forum to get into it on. But if you want to reach out to us, we'd love that. But we are going to pass this feedback on. Dealt with. So we're not going to go too deep into the toxic stuff. Okay, and then that's a prompt that you could use with ChatGPT to reply to toxic reviews. It's very simple. You could probably change that up a bit to reflect what you need a bit better. And then you can sort of see how it works through. It's a little bit too professional for me. Your advice to management has been duly noted. We continuously strive to improve our management. Depends on your tone of voice, but for hireful, we're a bit of an everyday sort of voice. That feels a little bit too businessy for us. That's half the problem when you put in a thing like use a formal and concerned tone. Formal in Glassdoor speak is quite formal. So yeah. Okay, now most important bit, gathering more positive reviews. So one of the first things to highlight is, because this is slightly, you could go, oh, is this completely ethical, Adrian? Is it fair? Is it legal? Well, firstly, it's definitely legal. We could argue about whether it's completely fair, but my argument would be, look, there's a general negativity bias. It's an accepted concept in psychology around people are more driven to action when they have a negative experience than a positive one. Yeah, I've never written a TripAdvisor review in my life. If I'm ever about to do it, the first time I do it will be when I've had a negative experience. Yeah, I'll be more driven to action by that. And I've had some wonderful positive experience, and I'm just a bit lazy, haven't got around to it. Sorry. Okay, this is the average rating on Glassdoor, and this is probably a little bit out of date because it's hard to verify these things now. But we know that maybe a quarter of organizations have at least a 4.2, something like that, 4.1, that have a reasonable effort on it. So it's not terrible on Glassdoor, but it's not brilliant. So let's look at some tactics. So my premise is, sorry, with the negativity biases, there's a bias to more negative. So when you look at, does your Glassdoor page reflect your organization and who you are? Is it a fair rating? Is it Does it have a good broad mix of all types of opinions? Chances are it probably doesn't. It might have slightly more negative. So these next tactics are ways to sort of rebalance that. Okay, so first, be more awesome. There we go. All joking aside, the world is much more open, transparent. If you've seen the stuff around ChatGPT, which I was showing last week, which I will quickly show here, you can go like, what's it like to work at Tesco? More and more people will use ChatGPT for this, or they might put in a more detailed search. What's the career development like at Tesco? We'll be using AI tools for this, and obviously Tesco being a major employer, you'll see things like Guardian will be maybe have articles on it, but that might not be relevant for your organisation. But you'll see Indeed, listings on Indeed are coming through. Glassdoor quite often will come through. So there's an even greater transparency now. So there is nowhere to hide. It's easier for the job seekers to find out what you're really like. So AI tools will make that process even easier. You won't have to go to Glassdoor or Indeed. You can just go get a summary of all the places that have ever reviewed or cast an opinion upon you, could come back and be part of that AI's view of this is what the organization's like. So if there's a problem in your organization, if you're not particularly good at something and you've been ignoring it for a while, this level of transparency makes it more pressing that you actually address that issue. So tip number one, there isn't a way around this, but yeah, there's an argument that we should all be a bit more awesome. Tip number two, we're getting to the actual tactical stuff, exit interviews. This is commonly used. When I was doing workshops around Glassdoor, people would tell me, yeah, we absolutely use this strategy. People during their exit interview, if they've had a great experience, we ask them to review us on Glassdoor or Indeed. If they've had a terrible experience or a bit mixed, we forget to ask them to do that. Very similar then, those key moments when people are happy, probation's been completed. I've just done my first year. I've just passed the company certification. I'm now a certified mortgage advisor or whatever else it is. If I've done that with the company and I've now passed that milestone, great time to reach out to that person and say, hey, look, looks like you're having a great experience here. We'd love you to have, if you've got the time, to share that experience on Glassdoor. And you can tell them. Obviously, feel free to write pros and cons in your review. We're very open to that, and it's completely anonymous. So I'll never know if you've wrote it, but I just wanted to at least ask and see if you have the time to do it. And that's it. Send it through to them, see what happens. But systemize these things so then they actually happen every time. You can ask your HR, your marketing, your management team. These are the people that are more focused on Glassdoor, mindful of it. But there's nothing wrong with that team getting involved. Now, we've got quite a few reviews for our company size on Glassdoor, but so you might find sometimes you've only got like 20 reviews and you've got 5, 6, 7 people in these teams. If you had a management meeting and said, yeah, we're all going to go away, let's all write a review, you might end up slightly looking like you've taken over the page, which is not ideal. So you might just stagger it and go, look, we don't want everyone to do it. Let's all just delegate. Let's see if some, who wants to do it this week, and you can literally explicitly say, I'll do it. And once again, remind that person pros and cons. Don't just paint it all perfectly. There'll be something that you can think of. There might be something we know the business is working on to get better. We can list that as an area for improvement. That will seem more balanced. It will therefore make the whole review look more reasonable and favourable. Yeah, but you're not demanding staff to do it. That's important to say. You're just saying, perhaps, if anyone in this room wants to do it, feel free. I know you're not all going to do it. Please don't all do it. So some of you just ignore this advice. I'm not explicitly asking anyone to do it. Let's just check back in a couple of months and see whether we've got a few more reviews. And I'll repeat that and see if we can slowly, if you haven't yet done it, maybe you can hop on and do it. We'd appreciate it. Nothing wrong with that. But if you are going to do that, then you'll see this is when our business was back called EasyWeb Recruitment. So it refers to EasyWeb. And I titled the review, probably the most biased review on Glassdoor, just a bit of tongue-in-cheek sort of joke. And before I mentioned that I'm the founder, so before I get started. So nice to have a nice disclaimer and say, yeah, I'm the founder, and post the positives and like what I like about working here. Nothing wrong with that. You can totally do that if you're the founder. You're very explicit about it, but it will still increase that rating. You've only done it once. You're not doing it every month, clearly. So yeah, so nothing wrong with that. You can also put a disclaimer and say I work in HR, and maybe I'm the person who manages the Glassdoor page. I I encourage our staff to reply to post reviews. You can say I encourage stuff. Don't say I encourage the good stuff. I do it just in the good exit interviews. But I say I generally encourage people to post on Glassdoor. So I thought it's only fair that I get on and do it myself. So here's my, unbiased review of what it's like to work here. Include pros and cons. You don't have to even do a 5-star. It could be a 4-star. Perfectly happy. Particularly if your organization's like a 3.5 rating, something like that, then 4-star will help. I haven't mentioned this, but it is important. If you are like a 3.5, 3.2, a slightly disappointing score overall, and obviously there's scores within that score, which are also quite key to focusing on, but that is not done as a straight up divide all the scores, what's the average? It's an algorithm, and the algorithm pays more attention to recent reviews. So if you can get a few of these things moving, you'll find that score can move quite dramatically, particularly if there's not loads of reviews, you can have a big influence. Now, you could send out an email to certain departments. Maybe we showed earlier, like maybe Tesco's head office is a happier bunch than Tesco overall. So they may say, well, we know these departments, maybe from our employee engagement survey as well, we know that Tesco's digital departments, they're really happy, they're working on some great projects. Why don't we email them and get more reviews from them? Could also be useful to target departments where your recruitment is really key. If they're expanding that digital department, lots of recruitment going on, then you can probably anticipate lots of digital job seekers will be checking that out because they'll see the jobs, they'll be in the recruitment process, they'll check out Tesco's Glassdoor page, so they'll want to see reviews from their peers as well. So seeing more of those reviews will be beneficial. And the all-in approach is like posters in the office. Now, let's imagine Tesco did this. I don't know if I've stuck with Tesco today, but I have. If Tesco did this, then that's a little bit risky because they may find there's little pockets where there's dissatisfaction. It's harder to keep everyone happy, perhaps across the whole of the group. Once again, if you did post a bit, yeah, I'll review you because I've just had an argument with my boss or something, and so you'll find it can be more negative. But what Tesco might find is, why don't we put posters up in the office? Yeah, that might not be in the head office, that might not be a bad idea. Yeah, so you can work this through. But the all-in approach is like saying, look, this is going to be our strategy. We know Glassdoor is important for us. We actually accept the feedback. We want to have feedback. The only way we get better as an organization is by having more feedback, learning more, understanding more, and moving on. So maybe that's where their approach would be. I have seen organizations do this. Like Auto Trader are very good. It's promoted everywhere across the building. When I was in there probably 10 years ago, maybe it's still there like that. But they were very much like, we want to be the best employer of digital talent in Manchester. We just want open feedback. Because as soon as we see stuff that we think, yeah, that's a problem, we agree, we'll get in and address it. Just ask. As I said, recent reviews have a bigger impact than old reviews. So like there is tip number 7 is just ask. People retiring, people, whatever it is, just make that moment and say, hey, you wouldn't mind doing this. And when you have that, if it's a verbal conversation, drop them an email. If they're leaving, drop it onto their personal email address, their Hotmail, their Gmail, and they'll sit in their inbox and hopefully they'll get in and do it. You can't chase them up on it. You can never confirm it, but it's not a bad strategy. Right. Almost wrapping up now. So I'm going to do one more poll. We have this wonderful audit report tool that we have built. Here it is. Here, I can show you an audit report. This is an example one we built. And if I just scroll through it, you'll see what it does is it looks over what we can do is we can look at your Glassdoor and or Indeed. This is a Glassdoor report, but we have an Indeed report as well. And we can see, have you done certain things? And when you've answered certain things, you have done this, you haven't done this, it inserts a piece of text and examples. It shows you what best practice looks like. So you can sort of check that out. And it goes through lots and lots of things, looks at your reviews. So our team take about 10, 15 minutes to go through the form, look at what you've done, what you haven't done, and it generates you your own review. So I'm going to throw that out now. And you can let me know whether you'd like us to do neither of these audit reports, or whether you'd like one for Glassdoor and Indeed, one for just for Glassdoor, or one just for Indeed. So I'll let you guys vote on this. Shouldn't take long, so I'm just going to give it another 5, 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, one, thank you for voting on that, guys. My colleagues will be back to you if you've requested one of those. Let me just clear that off. And then the last piece to mention about is promoting your Glassdoor page. Yeah, there's lots of examples here, but people take the quotes sometimes and use it as in their testimonial on their career site. This is from an anonymous Glassdoor reviewer, one of our staff reviewed this. This is what they said. Yeah. And then you can read more, maybe direct people back to your Glassdoor page. If you know it's strong, why not lead with it? This is Auto Trader. They're highlighting their employee engagement survey results here, but their Glassdoor ratings here as well. Glassdoor has its own widgets that you can copy. I'll show you, and you can put it onto your site. So we've got ours here, careers, hireful. Hold on a second. hireful careers, is it? Here we go. Right. So we've got Glassdoor running on our page here. We've got one of the widgets. I think it'll be on the front page when it loads. There it goes. So yeah, we've just got, it just says Glassdoor there, but I thought we had a widget previously. It was somewhere highlighting the actual number. We've changed it now. So it just says, check out our Glassdoor. But we did have the score running there. You can have the score running dynamically. It will just update from Glassdoor. You could add Glassdoor to your signatures. Promote, anyone could be a potential employee. So if you work there, why not say, look, check out our Glassdoor. If it is strong, why would you not promote it? And definitely I'd recommend promoting it within, and this could be Glassdoor or your Indeed rating. Promote it within your job advert copy. Why would you not want to do that? And you'll see this, very few people do this. So when we mention culture, 1 in 3 adverts on total jobs, you'll see 60,000 adverts here, 20,000 mention culture, which I presume most of them are saying, oh, we've got a great culture, we're a great culture, But very few of them are backing it up, because the obvious place to back it up would be Glassdoor, but very few, 60,000 adverts, 266 mention Glassdoor. So very, very few are mentioning Glassdoor reviews. So for me, this is an opportunity for you guys. If you do promote it, you do get comfortable with it and push it out there, whether it's Glassdoor or Indeed, it will create that evidence that people are looking for and build trust that you are a good employer. Okay, I'll throw it out for final questions, but what I also wanted to highlight is tomorrow we have a webinar. We have 130 people booked onto it, so it's quite a busy one for us. It's called Drafting Your First Employee AI Usage Policy. You don't already have one of these, particularly if you work in HR. We have a template document we can share. If you attend the webinar, we'll share it with you. And we just go through the reasons why this is important, understanding some of the legal considerations about your staff using AI, working out what's acceptable usage, thinking around training as well, because you can't really say to them, use AI, but we're not going to give you training. And you can't really expect, I don't think, and I'll show you tomorrow, to tell them you're not allowed to use AI, because the chances are they'll go off and do a little bit on their own. Like you've seen today that you might be hopping on ChatGPT because they've asked you to, imagine you've got to reply to 300 reviews. One of your boss might think that's going to take you 2 days. You might be using my custom GPT tool. It's going to take you 2 hours. You could use the rest of the time to walk the dog, renovate your house, whatever you paint a ceiling, whatever you want to do. So that stuff does go on. So my strategy, my thing that I would recommend would, think about it, have a proper strategy, give your staff the tools and training. Maybe you're not even ready to do that yet, but you're going to be in the coming months, I would have thought, and probably next year at some point, so that you can be sort of this AI confident organization, and you as an individual can be an AI confident HR leader. And I think a large part of it starts with this document. We don't spend forever in the document, but we talk about the whole background and everything that impinges upon it to help you get to that point. And typically that document would be, we share a template with you, but we still advise you need legal advice to use that document. So in order to action that, but what we're saying, the legal advice, you really need to be comfortable knowing all the issues. So when you're talking to anyone who's legal, you can say, well, we want this for this reason, and we thought about that, but can you draft it like this for this reason? And then they're drafting it as you need. So there's the link to the webinar. If you're interested, guys, feel free to sign up to that. Let me see what's left on the slides as we come to 11 o'clock. I don't see any questions, so I'll hang around just in case there is any other questions. If you are leaving, there is a quick survey. You rate the webinar from 1 to 10. You can add a comment on there. That'd be fantastic. We'd love to see that. We pay attention to all the feedback. as you would expect, given the nature of today's webinar. And then here are my contact details. So if you've got like a tricky review to reply back to or something else you want to run by us, welcome to run it by us. Email me directly or connect me on LinkedIn and message me there. I'm happy to help. And yeah, there's your appendix. Everything else you need is here. So I wish you the best of luck with it, guys. And yeah, and we'll speak soon. Hopefully maybe see a few of you on tomorrow's webinar. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.